gonna be all right. We're monitoring everything closely.
Sarah's heart stopped when the door swung open. Standing there in blue scrubs, chart in hand, was a man who broke her heart 5 years ago, and now he was the only doctor available to deliver her baby. Sarah. Dr. James Miller's face went pale, like he'd seen a ghost. For a moment, they just stared at each other while her contractions grew stronger. The beeping monitors seemed to get louder in the silence between them. How did this happen? Of all the hospitals in the city, why did she have to end up here? And why, out of dozens of doctors, did it have to be him? The universe had a cruel sense of humor, forcing her ex-husband to deliver her child, a child he knew nothing about. You're probably wondering how Sarah got into this mess. Let's take you back to where it all began. But stay with us because what happened in that delivery room will shock you to your core. Before we dive in, drop your city in the comments. We'd love to know where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story like this. Now, let's continue. Sarah met James 7 years ago at a coffee shop downtown. She spilled a latte all over his white coat, and instead of getting mad, he laughed and said, "Well, at least now I have an excuse to talk to the beautiful woman I've been staring at for the last 10 minutes. James was everything she'd ever wanted, smart, kind, and he looked at her like she was his whole world. After a year of dating, he proposed on the rooftop of the hospital where he worked, surrounded by twinkling lights and their closest friends. Their marriage was perfect, until it wasn't. "I can't do this anymore, Sarah," he said one night, his voice cold and distant. "I need space. This isn't working." Just like that, after only 2 years of marriage, her fairy tale crumbled. No real explanation. No chance to fix things. He packed his bags and left her sobbing on their kitchen floor. The divorce papers arrived 3 weeks later. Sarah never told him she was pregnant. She found out the day after he left, and by then, his words had cut too deep. He clearly didn't want her. Why would he want that baby? So she kept a secret and moved to the other side of the city to start over. Now here they were, 5 years later, with Sarah screaming through contractions while her ex-husband stood frozen at the foot of her hospital bed. I had no idea you were pregnant," he finally said, his eyes dropping to her massive belly. "It's not yours," she lied through gritted teeth as another contraction hit. She couldn't deal with this now. Not while her body felt like it was being torn apart. His face showed relief, then confusion, then something else she couldn't read. "Your chart says you're having a girl." "Yes," she gasped, squeezing the bed rails. "And you're not married?" he asked, glancing at her bare ring finger. "Is this really the time for catching up?" she snapped, sweat dripping down her face. That's when everything changed. James's face transformed from shocked ex-husband to focused doctor in an instant. "You're right. I'm sorry. Let's get you through this, Sarah." For the next hour, he was professional and calm, guiding her through contractions. But she caught him looking at her strangely, like he was putting pieces together in his mind. "The baby's heartbeat is dropping," a nurse suddenly announced, her voice tense. James checked the monitor, his face turning serious. "Sarah, we need to do an emergency C-section. The umbilical cord might be wrapped around the baby's neck." Terror gripped her. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. "Is my baby going to die?" she whispered. "Not if I can help it," James said with such fierce determination that for a moment, she remembered why she had loved him so much. As they rushed her to the operating room, James leaned close. "Sarah, I know this isn't ideal, but I promise you, I will do everything in my power to make sure your daughter is safe." The operating room lights were blinding. A blue curtain was placed above her chest so she couldn't see the surgery. She felt tugging but no pain thanks to the anesthesia. "Sarah," James said from behind his surgical mask, "talk to me. Keep your mind off what's happening. Tell me about these last 5 years." She started rambling about her job as a kindergarten teacher, her small apartment, anything to distract herself from the fact that her ex-husband was cutting her open to save a baby. Then his voice changed. "Sarah, was there ever anyone else? After me?" Before she could answer, the machine started beeping frantically. Blood pressure dropping. A nurse called out. "She's hemorrhaging," James said, his voice tight. "I need more suction here. Push 1 unit of blood. Now." The room spun around her. Darkness crept in from the edges of her vision. The last thing she heard was James's voice, no longer calm and professional but cracking with emotion. "Don't you dare leave me, Sarah. Not again. Stay with me." Then everything went black. Sarah woke up to the steady beep of a heart monitor. Her body felt like it had been run over by a truck. The room was dim, with just a small lamp glowing in the corner. And there, slumped in a chair next to her bed, was James, still in his scrubs, fast asleep. In his arms, wrapped in a pink blanket, was a tiny bundle. Her baby, her daughter. She must have made a sound because James's eyes fluttered open. When he saw her awake, relief washed over his face. "Sarah," he whispered, standing carefully with her daughter in his arms. "You've been unconscious for almost 24 hours. You lost a lot of blood. Is she okay?" Her voice was barely audible. James smiled, the kind of smile that made her heart ache with memories. "She's perfect. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Healthy lungs too. She's been letting everyone know it." He placed the baby gently in her arms, and Sarah looked down at her tiny face for the first time. She had James's nose, and his eyes. There was no denying it. "She's 5 years old, isn't she?" James asked quietly. "You were pregnant when I left." Sarah couldn't speak, couldn't lie anymore. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice wasn't angry, just deeply sad. "You left me," she whispered. "You said you needed space. What was I supposed to think?" James ran his hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt. "Sarah, there's something you need to know. Something I should have told you 5 years ago." She looked up at him, their daughter sleeping peacefully in her arms, completely unaware of the storm brewing around her. "The real reason I left." He started, but the door swung open. "Dr. Miller, emergency in room 304, a nurse called." James hesitated, torn between duty and the truth hanging between them. "Go," Sarah said. "We'll be here when you get back." He nodded, touching their daughter's cheek gently before hurrying out. Little did Sarah know, the truth he was about to reveal would change everything she thought she knew about their past, and maybe their future too. What do you think happened between Sarah and James? Why did he really leave her 5 years ago? And what shocking thing will he do those changes everything? Sarah stared at the ceiling, counting the tiny dots in the tiles, waiting for James to return. Her daughter, their daughter, slept peacefully in the bassinet beside her bed. She still hadn't named her. For 5 years, she'd been calling her baby in her mind, never able to settle on a name without thinking of James. The door opened slowly, and there he was. He looked exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes and his scrubs wrinkled from his long shift. "You're still here," he said softly, as if he'd expected her to disappear. "Hard to run away when you're recovering from surgery," she replied, trying to joke, but feeling the weight of 5 years of secret between them. James pulled a chair close to her bed and sat down, rubbing his face with his hands. "Sarah, I need to tell you why I left. The real reason." Her heart pounded so hard she was sure he could hear it. For 5 years, she'd imagined every possible explanation. Another woman, falling out of love, the pressure of his medical career. What could be worse than abandoning your pregnant wife without explanation? "I was sick, Sarah," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I had a brain tumor." The world seemed to stop. "What?" she breathed. "They found it during a routine scan. It was pressing on my frontal lobe, the part that controls personality, decision-making." His eyes filled with tears. "The doctors told me I had maybe 6 months to live without treatment, and even with surgery, my chances weren't good." She couldn't process what he was saying. "But you're here. You're alive." The surgery went better than anyone expected. But before it, he paused, struggling with the words. "I was not myself, Sarah. The tumor was affecting my emotions, my thinking. I would get angry over nothing, forget things, make terrible decisions." "Like leaving me," she whispered. He nodded, her tears sliding down his cheek. "I convinced myself you'd be better off without me. That it would hurt less if I just left rather than making you watch me die. I thought I was protecting you." "You should have told me," she said, anger and grief and confusion all swirling together. "I would have stayed with you. I would have helped you fight it." "I know that now," he said. "After the surgery, when I was myself again, I tried to find you, but you'd moved, changed your number. No one knew where you'd gone. Sarah remembered how thoroughly she'd cut ties, how determined she'd been to disappear from their shared life. Why didn't you just come to my parents? They would have told you where I was. James looked down. I did. Your father punched me in the face and told me I'd done enough damage. Despite everything, she almost laughed. That sounded exactly like her overprotective dad. So all this time, she couldn't finish the sentence. All this time, I've been looking for you, he said simply. And now here you are, with our daughter. Their eyes both drifted to the sleeping baby. She needs a name, Sarah said softly. James smiled. What were you thinking? I always liked the name Lily, she admitted. But I wasn't sure. Lily, he repeated, looking at their daughter. It's perfect. A nurse came in to check Sarah's vitals, interrupting their moment. As she worked, Sarah noticed James watching her with an intensity that made her cheeks flush. After the nurse left, James took a deep breath. Sarah, there's something else you need to know. Something that happened during your surgery. Her stomach tightened. What is it? Is something wrong with me? No, you're healing well now. But? He struggled with the words. During the C-section, you started hemorrhaging badly. You needed a blood transfusion immediately. She nodded, remembering the frantic voices before she passed out. Your blood type is rare, AB negative. The hospital blood bank was out of your type. His voice grew softer. You were dying in front of me, Sarah. I could feel you slipping away. A chill ran through her. What happened? I may be negative too. It's one of the things we always joked about. How perfectly matched we were. His hands were trembling slightly as he continued. I gave you my blood, Sarah. Direct transfusion. Right there in the operating room. She stared at him in shock. Is that even allowed? No, he said simply. I could lose my medical license for it. But the alternative was losing you, and that wasn't an option. The weight of what he was saying crashed over her. You risked your career to save me. I would risk everything for you, he said. Always. Before she could respond, the door burst open and a stern-looking woman in a business suit walked in. Dr. Miller, she said sharply. The board needs to see you immediately regarding the incident in operating room 3. James stood up slowly. I'll be right there, Ms. Collins. The woman gave Sarah a curious look before leaving. They know, James said quietly. Someone reported the unauthorized transfusion. James, you can't lose your job because of me, Sarah said, panic rising in her chest. He smiled sadly. Some things are more important than a job, Sarah. As he turned to leave, she grabbed his hand. Wait, take my phone. Record everything they say to you. He looked confused. Why? Just trust me, she said. After he left, Sarah pressed the call button frantically until a nurse appeared. I need to make some calls, she said urgently. And I need my laptop. 2 hours later, the hospital board members were stunned into silence as they stared at the laptop screen in the conference room. Sarah sat in a wheelchair at the head of the table, still weak but determined. James stood beside her, looking bewildered. So to summarize, she said, using her best kindergarten teacher voice, if you fired Dr. Miller for saving my life with an emergency transfusion, the story will run tomorrow in every major newspaper and medical journal, along with testimonials from the 15 other patients whose lives are saved through extraordinary measures. You're a kindergarten teacher, one board member said suspiciously. How did you organize all this in 2 hours? She smiled. Before I taught kindergarten, I was a PR specialist for a major hospital system. I still have contacts. James was looking at her like he'd never seen her before. Dr. Miller broke protocol. Yes, she continued, but he saved my life and our daughter's life. The public will see him as a hero, not a rule breaker. Is that really the kind of publicity you want to fight? The board members exchanged glances. We'll need to discuss this privately, the chairwoman finally said. As they left the room, James looked at Sarah in amazement. You just blackmailed the hospital board for me. I protected someone I care about, she corrected him. The way you should have let me protect you 5 years ago. Back in her room, as they waited for the board's decision, James sat beside her bed, gently holding Lily. I never stopped loving you, Sarah, he said quietly. Even when the tumor was messing with my head, Even when I convinced myself leaving was the right thing to do. I never stopped. Tears welled up in her eyes. I tried to hate you, she admitted. I tried so hard. But every time I felt our baby kick, every time I saw her on an ultrasound, I just missed you more. James carefully placed Lily back in a bassinet and took Sarah's hands in his. I know I have no right to ask this. I know I hurt you in the worst possible way. But do you think, is there any chance we could try again? Not for Lily's sake, but for ours. Before she could answer, there was a knock at the door. The chairwoman of the board entered, her face unreadable. Dr. Miller, she said formally, the board has decided that while your actions were against protocol, they were taken in an extreme emergency situation with a positive outcome. She paused. You're being placed on probation for 6 months, but you will retain your position. Relief washed over his face. Thank you. After she left, James turned back to Sarah, waiting for her answer. We can't just pick up where we left off, she said carefully. Too much has happened. We're different people now. His face fell, but he nodded. I understand. So we'll have to start over, she continued. First date, getting to know each other again. Slowly. Hope bloomed in his eyes. Really? You gave me your blood to save my life, she said softly. That seems like a good place to begin again. 1 year later. Happy birthday, Lily. Everyone cheered as Sarah's dad helped the little girl blow out the single candle on her cake. Their small apartment was packed with friends and family celebrating their daughter's first birthday. Technically, she was turning 6, but this was the first birthday they were celebrating together as a family. James wrapped his arm around Sarah's waist as they watched Lily giggle with delight at all the attention. Best day ever, he whispered in her ear. She turned to face him, taking in the healthy color in his cheeks, the absence of those dark circles under his eyes, the happiness that seemed to radiate from him. Better than our wedding day. That was pretty great too, he admitted with a grin. 3 months ago, they had gotten married again. A small ceremony with just Lily and their closest friends and family. Starting over hadn't been easy. They'd had to learn to trust each other again, to communicate better, to forgive the past. But some things are meant to be. Sometimes the universe brings people back together in the most unexpected ways. Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if you hadn't gone into labor at my hospital? James asked. Sarah kissed his cheek. I think we would have found our way back to each other eventually. Some connections can't be broken, not by time or distance or even a brain tumor. She leaned into him, watching their daughter surrounded by love, thinking about the incredible journey that had brought them here. From heartbreak to healing, from separation to reunion. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who can heal us the deepest. Sometimes the end is just the beginning of a better story. And sometimes, the most shocking thing a person can do is find the courage to give love a second chance. What do you think? Would you have given James another chance after everything that happened? Has anyone in your life ever deserved a second chance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more emotional, raw life stories that will touch your heart. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads.